Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to this SpeedGaming presentation of the Link to the Past Randomizer Main Tournament 2022 edition. Tonight we have a match for you in the Group G. This is the group stage of the tournament. After our qualifiers selected 128 runners, we broke them all down into groups, and now they have to play each other. It is a full round robin, 2 games against each of your 3 opponents. Tonight we have Jaejo36 and Spleebie on tap for you. I am MindDM, and calling the action with me tonight is going to be Malmo, who has been on comm once today already. Welcome in, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, how about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I have been watching a whole lot of Rando today, but this will be my first commentary of the day. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as it were.
This is not only my second commentary, this is also my second ambrosia, and maybe this time I'll remember to check the uncle hint.
Oh, right, the uncle hint. So, for anybody out there who is not familiar with Ambrosia, the uncle is going to spoil, quote-unquote, the boots location for us. It could be something as specific as Thieves Town, or something as generic as the Light World. We also get to start with a sword, and bosses are guaranteed to have a non-map compass key item. So it could be anything from the fire rod all the way down to a 3-pack of bombs.
So we should be starting up any second now. Spleebie and Jaejo will be starting at Link's house, going to the escape. And here we go. Uncle says, boots are in Ice Palace.
That's an interesting kind of mid to late game location. You need a decent amount of equipment. You have to be able to get into the Dark World first off, and then on top of it, logically you'll need flippers. You're going to need mitts for sure, some kind of a melt source, and depending on the location, maybe also something along the lines of the hookshot, hammer. Then the possibilities are fairly open that those boots are going to be late for our runners today.
Yeah. Good news though, very unlikely now that it's going to be a pendant because we have seen 2 pendants in the Light World. We have one at Eastern and one at Desert.
Bit of a low-powered Light World to start out with, and the Uncle, unfortunately, we're not playing normal standard, it's an assured sword, so the Uncle does not have to give us a random weapon, and in fact did not, just handing out some sticks. Here are the bombs that all runners want for their standard escape sequences, though. This ensures that they can check the 3 chests in the back of escape as they're making their way right on through, rather than having to come back later.
Looks like we got full magic drops from the guards. That won't come into play until later. Normally we would be farming for bombs and looking at those prize packs, and that would actually be one of the prize packs that will not drop a bomb, so it's a good thing there were bombs in the Uncle chest.
And it can be a handy prize pack to know for later, because the Wiz Robes are also in that same prize pack, and you'll see those in such notable places as Misery Mire and on the climb in Gannon's Tower. Having a spare refill drop while you're in the middle of doing things can be pretty handy every now and again.
See both runners showing off their NMG knowledge using spins on the guard. We'll be seeing a little bit more of that. It's one of the hallmarks of Ambrosia is because you start with the sword, but you don't start with boots. It's one of the most NMG-like rando starts that you get. You see both runners charging their sword before going into here. That is the correct thing to do because it times out well. This one looks like Spleebie is going for a rando strat where you actually pop the guard, and they both do, into the chest. Because you don't get the boomerang here, you just get a random item. So you can't rely on that boomerang to get you your key.
So instead, baiting the guard in a little bit with the so-called dinner bell strats.
Let's see how they handle the ball and chain. There's a few different ways to do it. I think Spleebie is an 8-slash person. Jaejo is a 1-pot fan. And also, actually not 2-pot because the guard he did not have the boomerang that you would normally have to deal with at guard RNG, so he had to deal with the guard. And if you're there, you might as well get another pot. Spleebie gets a little bit of a lead in the escape from that.
A few seconds, very likely to be made up elsewhere, either through different items had during different sequences of the game, or simply different routing.
Yeah, lately I've been seeing a pattern where I think all the top 128 runners are really close to each other in skill level, to the point where we're seeing more finishes based on decisions made in the game rather than raw execution moments like this, especially ones that only save a couple seconds.
Certainly, as you get higher up the chain, you wind up with the rando skill being closer and closer together. I'm not sure of Spleebie's background, although I believe it may involve a handful of glitches that are not permitted for the the rando no glitches or minor glitches category, as we might call it.
So yeah, Spleebie. I know a little bit about Spleebie's background. He is very much an avid glitch runner, but lately he has been practicing the tournament modes almost every night. He used to do NMG every Thursday as well, so he has some practice in that. He has a 127. I'm not sure what Jaejo has, if he does have an NMG.
I'm somewhat more conversant with Jaejo. He and I share a small community server, and I don't know that he plays NMG at all. But he is very much a fan of things like cross keys, things that force him into a lot of low percent situations. Inverted is a big favorite of that particular group. Well, most of them. I won't include myself in that at all.
So given this matchup, we could say that maybe Spleebie is on the home field today, having that NMG advantage, and Jaejo would have had the advantage in an inverted start, for example, or a hard standard, hard open.
That seems like a reasonable thing to say, although we've got Spleebie with, what, about 3/4 of a room lead here? That's not much in rando. It's a thing that builds up more in something like NMG, where the route is very fixed, very kind of nailed down. You know what you're going to do, you know what you're going to have at all points. Whereas in rando, as soon as you make one different decision, you can diverge pretty wildly in some seats.
Alright, we're going to do a game here because this is a Spleebie stream. Look out for those chest turns and count every time he gets a chest turn and count every time he misses a chest turn.
That way you can rag on him later, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. He's quite good at them. You'll see a lot of actual hit chest turns. Sometimes he'll go through Hype Cave and do all 4. Look at that! We got one chest turn for the lamp in the Sanctuary.
That is not a vanilla location for the lamp, but it does mean that we get a little bit of a better viewing experience today. No dark rooms going to be on offer. Everybody gets to see what our runners are doing.
So this is always an interesting decision in Ambrosia, is checking Lumberjack. Normally runners will wait for the boots, but knowledge of the boots is something that you get in Ambrosia. So there's a little bit more play to that. It's, you know, if the boots are somewhere you think you'll get at some point, then the value of Lumberjack goes up. But if they're in Gannon's tower, you probably won't be checking Lumberjack. Just 50 rupees.
Yeah, in this case, I feel maybe a little more incentivized by already having that lamp on top of the starting sword. You're just a sword away from being able to make that Aga clear.
Also a decent chance that you'll be doing it anyway for Darkhold access. Did Jaejo catch up to Spleebie a little bit by not doing the triple?
That's what it looks like. Spleebie gains the advantage of, looks like 4 extra bombs from having done that triple.
And this is kind of what we mean, where the little room-to-room differences don't matter so much unless you're consistently doing them better than your opponent. But most of these are coming down to RNG, coming down to just how ready you are for the moment. And in the top 28, we're not seeing so many differences outside of people like Ari who have 123 NMGs, where they're actually able to out-execute their opponent consistently enough to gain time over time throughout a seed.
Sub 90 NMG times must be nice. I couldn't tell you what that feels like, because I don't know.
What is an NMG time?
Oh, I see. You're in my boat. Got it.
I have one. I did it as a joke. It's a 138. Alright, we out a Master Sword. Aghanims in logic. But all it does is pyramid ledge. So we're not going to go there yet.
Imagine the seed hinting at an early Aga play. Now, it's not always a bad thing to do that. If you think that the seed is hinting at that, you can get into a position where maybe that just is your access to the eastern side of the Dark World, and something you need is in Palace of Darkness or on that pyramid ledge. There are ways to gain some time by making that rush Aga play a little bit. Although a lot of people are just going to go ahead and put it off at least until the Moon Pearl shows up.
Kakariko shovel. Very convenient. Nice chest turn from Spleebie. That's my second chest turn I've seen. Mirror, too. Okay, does that count? That counts. That was a sideways chest turn. So what does the mirror mean for us? Nothing yet, but it does mean that when we're in the Dark World, the routing will be a little more convenient. Paired with those flippers, hints at swamp a little bit.
And of course, once we inevitably kill Aghanim, now that this is such a confirmed Aga seed, if you save and quit in the Dark World, you'll start on the pyramid because the game will expect you to use the mirror.
Chest turn number 3. And a chicken clip.
It's been a bit of an interesting village so far. It's not giving us huge hints necessarily, unless we want to take the Master Sword as the hint that we're supposed to be taking. But the shovel gives us an additional check, the flippers put a handful of additional things in logic as well.
Flippers are a little scary. We're on 300-ish rupees, which is not 500. Last time I did the math, it came up a few hundred short, so either we could get, a Zora's domain check without Zora, or we could have a farming situation. So Jaejo is going to blind pull this 50 rupees. Spleebie is not going back for those. It is not, in his perspective, worth it, because it doesn't get him to Zora money.
It is a choice. He does have the shovel, which you can dig up rupees with, along with various other odds and ends.
And still checks between there and Zora, so you could just hope. Unfortunately, the Houlihan's not available to the runners. The flippers get rid of the only method they have available to them without gloves or boots.
But we'll see. More than enough checks left. At the absolute worst, you could do something like make a play into Pendant Eastern and wind up in the Eastern Palace Rupee Room, pick up your 90 there. That would put Jaejo one away. That would still leave Spleebie a little short.
Pendant dungeons you can't clear are always a little scary in Ambrosia, because you know you're leaving behind an item you're never coming back for. Oh, okay, so I see Spleebie's decision, delaying Zora a little bit, because he doesn't have the money. This is the opportunity to do Agina's Cave.
Personally, I'm a fan of this kind of play. I like to be a little more thorough with clearing out Sphere 1. Just because it's so early, the game has every chance to put things there. Now, it's technically a later Sphere when you're talking about a standard start, but,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's still that right out of the gate kind of thing, where you're expecting the game to start handing you a few things, and really so far it hasn't given all that much.
Are you familiar with what pack Jaejo is using?
I believe this is a creation of Jaejo's own. I think this is from the game Blast Core.
Ah. I do happen to know Spleebie is running Donkey Kong Country, MSU. And we might be hearing that as it gets switched.
I'll go ahead and try to prop Jaejo up here just a little bit. If you've used many MSU packs, you've probably seen his name on the sheet. The man does excellent work. The loops are pristine, the track choices are wonderful. He has very compatible taste in music with a lot of people. I'm not the only one who really likes basically everything he's done. So by all means, if you play Rando yourself and you have a system capable of handling the MSUs, just go to the sheet, search Jaejo36.
I do love that this tournament is giving us a chance to show off everyone's favorite MSU packs. Didn't get to do this before on SpeedGaming. You used to have to play with your vanilla music, which, in my opinion, kind of robs us of part of the experience of playing a Link to the Past randomizer, the ability to customize your experience.
Yeah, it's been altered sprites for pretty much ever and ever. Some people will opt for things like palette shuffle. There's even, although we don't use it here, a sound effect shuffle option that floats around. Some of those are pretty terrible, some of them are kind of hilarious, actually. Let's pop the chicken sounds. But so MSUs were one of those things. And yeah, let's go ahead and actually talk about the game, because there was a sword in there.
And bailout money. I was nervous about the money because this morning I was commentating a race where Hookshot was on Zora, and one of them didn't have the money and fell a little behind.
Not going to be a problem today, as that 3 hundo pops right on out in the 5-item dense cave there, Mini Moldorm.
Wait. You're kidding me. Is it actually faster to jump down and climb the ladder there?
Jaejo is completely a rando player. I doubt he has ever timed it. I do not personally know. And the person I know who would be the person I would call on for that kind of information, I'm pretty sure is running an asynchronous casual boots right now. Another main tourney runner who happens to be in my group, the Vortex of Doom. But somebody out there in chat may be one of those people who likes to time out different strategies. Maybe somebody knows.
Oh, somebody's asking what in-logic means. In-logic. So there is a whole bunch of logic written for this game to ensure that you can beat the game without glitches. And in-logic means that the item is available for you, or the location is available to you with the items you have.
Now, part of that is the game assumes that you can always have as many rupees as you can get your hands on. So if you have a glove or the flippers, Zora is in logic whether or not it's handed you a couple of 300 rupee packs or not. It also assumes that you're going to have bombs because there are locations around Hyrule, particularly a couple bushes south of Grove, a couple more in Kakariko Village, and various others scattered elsewhere, where you can just get a bomb by picking up or slashing down a given plant.
So Spleebie has found a glove in Waterfall Fairy. He is in a bit of a treacherous course here. Okay, get the heart. Okay, now we can breathe. You think about having enough money for Zora, but we don't really think a lot about having enough health to survive the trip here. There's a lot of Zoras shooting at you, and it's really easy to get sniped.
Unless you happen to be playing something like Randomizer instead, which is not something in this tournament, but where you kind of shuffle all the enemies around, and suddenly you might wind up with things like Lionels and Chain Chomps in the place of all of these Zoras. And that can be a little questionable.
So given we have glove, lamp, and mirror, where do you think our progression is?
Shockingly enough, somewhere in the vicinity of Red Crystal Tower of Hera seems to be on Spleebie's mind.
I agree. Given that the alternative is Pyramid Ledge and Eastern, I cannot blame Spleebie for making this decision here.
I could conceive of an alternate path where you at least check Sahasrarla's Closet first in hopes that you find something like a hookshot or a hammer to improve the access you have up on the mountain. But there's nothing wrong with just going ahead, making the save of the old man, making the play to Hera, and then coming back at a later date.
This feels like a no-brainer to me, and looks like Jaejo agrees.
And Drossi, nobody has forgotten Nagina. Both of our runners did that. They turned left from the dam and cleared that out for a piece of heart bright and early.
Spleebie's getting a little bullied on the mountain. He's past the worst part of it. Just barely missing that last cabbage. Now he's in the safe area as long as he doesn't get hit by a dead rock too many times on the top. He'll be okay.
I won't sing it because I could feel the death glare from Drosy already, but sometimes the green rocks really are falling on your head.
So, Moon Pearl's available. It's in Spectral Rock Cave. I'm actually surprised that Spleebie doesn't do Hera first.
And then jump back down and grab this before leaving. Yeah, that would make sense. Although there is and he does have enough health barely, there is a nice bomb jump you can use here to just hop on back through.
And he will be attempting that here. I think his usual go-to strat here is to hover, but he cannot do that without the boots.
Not going to be terribly easy to hover while those boots are still in Ice Palace.
Looks like Jaejo making the same choice to do this first. Oh, and we have a Pendant Swamp. And a Red Crystal Ice.
A very incentivized Ice Palace, you could say. Not only is it our second 5/6 crystal, but the uncle has spoiled our boots location. Ice Palace is what we're looking for.
Jaejo is falling here. Is that faster than saving and quitting to the old man?
I believe saving and quitting to the old man is faster, but sometimes in the heat of the moment you just don't think about it.
That was a very dedicated chest turn. Gotta pause and then do it. Gotta put your whole body into it. And is rewarded with the powder. So it is fire-locked Hera. Hopefully Spleebie doesn't die here, because it is really easy to get pelted by a Moldorm on the way down. That would be a very punishing place to die.
That is not the most fun room to try and get through. Even when you have boots, it's still not nice. The Tempered Sword gives you a little extra range, which may be okay, but many Moldorms just as unpredictable as their big brother up at the top of the tower.
And they do just as much damage. Those things will one-shot him. It is a little safer when you've hit the switch already. You don't have to linger in that room too long. He does choose to mirror out and not death warp out, which is a defensible play if he wanted to do that. Jaejo also in a similar situation, one heart going into this room. Will have to survive. Oh, Spleebie does not survive Beatles 1. But that's not the worst place to take a death.
Jaejo also opting for what most of us term the coffee break strat here, just setting a bomb or some Aria block if you have it as a nice one, over on that switch and then standing on these pegs to have invincibility.
I liked Spleebie's use of the red boomerang there. It's non-standard, but it worked really well for him. And he only has 3 bombs, so being able to conserve resources like that could come into play.
It's plenty of bombs for somebody with a fair working knowledge of the no major glitches run. Normally you would bomb jump to the chest there, but apparently Spleebie not going to opt for it.
No, so Spleebie knows something. He knows that the item is on the boss.
Oh, we found powder in the main hub chest, didn't we?
We did.
I had already put that out of mind.
Part of the challenge of Ambrosia is remembering it's Ambrosia.
It really is. There's not a whole lot there that says, oh hi, I'm Ambrosia.
Yeah, usually when you're playing a standard mode, you can forget it's standard at the 6-minute mark. But Ambrosia haunts you all the way to GT. Jaejo also knows it's Ambrosia, skipping chests on the way up. Spleebie has cleared the area, so it's a little bit awkward. We have Darkwold access through Aghanim. We can now go to Pod and Catfish, and that's it. So he is putting that off Gonna do at least some of the eastern area before heading there. I actually think you could do this with Pod if you really wanted to lean into the Aga play. But given how close we are to Darkhold access through other means, I can see why Spleebie is doing this.
That is what I was wondering. It's pretty easy to pair this up when you already have the mirror, if you're willing to gamble on it being Aga, but that can be a fairly expensive gamble if it's not.
How far does he lean into this? He's leaning pretty far into it. Alright, what does Jaejo do then? This could be a turning point for the match. This is an Aga play for Jaejo. If there is nothing in Eastern Palace, Jaejo is picking up some time on Spleebie here.
He may give some of that back depending on what winds up being in Pod, on Pyramid Ledge, those kinds of things. But by the same token, he's not going to have to make the walk over there a second time. If he decides to dip into Eastern, he's at least already going to be in range of Pod as well, and vice versa.
Oh, nice use of the temporary stun on the ball and chain guard.
It's always just a little nicer to have a boomerang in here, particularly when you're on the vanilla equipment set, but even when you have the tempered sword, that boomerang can cause a few rooms that can be otherwise a little more irritating than they might normally be, to be fairly free. I'm not sure if we have an accurate count or not, but that looked like a leftward chest turn off of that big key pickup.
Yes, it was. I've lost count already. Sorry, I failed. Entrance Randomizer used to have a chest turn counter, and they took it out. We're very sad about that. Ooh! I think Jaejo just barely missed that guard. And a little bit punished by it being the red boomerang, taking so much longer to get back. Oh my goodness, Spleebie has found the mitts. This is a big, big gain for him. He does not have to fight Aghanim anymore. This is now pure time loss for Jaejo. I think the best thing we can hope for Jaejo is either the bow or nothing is in the Pod area. Because if he finds something that is not the bow, he will not do Eastern. He's just gonna go to the Dark World and he's gonna keep going and he's gonna miss out on those mitts.
It can be difficult to say because Pod is one of those locations that the game kind of has a tendency to put items in, but every once in a while, like any location in Rando, it can come up totally bare. And when it does, then you've got Eastern there as your backup strat, so we shall see here in the next few minutes.
Oh gosh. Okay. Spleebie found the fire rod here too. That is crazy to find that when you've already found something that puts you at a huge advantage. I wonder if Spleebie knows that Jaejo is going to miss that, or if he expects Jaejo to do the same thing he did. Because I think a very, very reasonable play to do Aghanim. You know, this item set. I mean, you have an Ambrosia boss that you know you're leaving behind. And you have the ability to mirror there from Pod if you don't find anything in Pod.
It is an interesting early turning point in the match, no doubt about it.
Now, one thing that could bring this back for Jaejo is if Armos Knights does have an item and Jaejo finds the bow. And if that item is important, Spleebie is not getting it. Like, ever. He's going to last location it. So, that is your hope. If you were on Team Jaejo, that is what you were hoping to see. Yeah, that's true. There's also the chance that Jaejo finds something in pod that will put that will be late for Spleebie, because Spleebie has found distraction in Eastern. Wow, their Dark World entry really is in pretty good sync here. One thing Spleebie will also benefit from is not having to mirror to save and quit in the Dark World. He will not be dumped at the pyramid every time he does that.
I am mildly surprised, and only very mildly, that given the loadout that Spleebie has, the Mit's Dark World access, having found that Fire Rod, having had the flippers in inventory for so long, maybe a play to Ice Palace Hammerless would have been a thing. It would have been pretty spicy, but
that good. Like, come on, they're boots. We love the boots. They're not Hammerless Ice good.
Yeah, well, then there are the times that Hammer is in Hammerless Ice, and then you last locate it, because nobody wants to do it.
That's true, but still, I wouldn't do it. Not even someone who can, like, I mean, like, Spleebie knows his way around boots, right? He hovers, he plays glitch modes. Still not Hammerless Ice good. Alright, moment of truth for Jaejo. If there's something in pod that Spleebie will not be getting for a while. Best thing he can find here is the bow and nothing else. I think even finding Hammer here could take him away from the mitts. Oh, the Cane of Samaria is here. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's an immediate lock. It's an item that he's going to need eventually due to both Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. And since it doesn't change anything for him as far as what he's gained from Dark World access, the immediate Eastern dive.
Yeah, there we go. I guess that counts as being nothing, as he gets locked out of pod. Though he knows that Eastern has his Dark World access, which can't feel good when you have killed Gannon. But you get the consolation prize of progression in pod that Spleebie might not get for a while. Another benefit of that cane is if Jaejo does decide to do the Hammerless Ice play, he has the cane and can do Icebreaker and get one of those Hammerlock checks, which could be the boots. The boots can also be on Cold Stare, and they're a little more likely to be in Ambrosia, so that would be a bit of a gamble to do that without Hammer.
As we consider that, we should probably also note that Spleebie taking down the Moth, putting a second crystal up on the board here at 31.5 minutes.
I didn't realize Spleebie had done front of Skullwoods first, and I think that maybe he was trying to go for a one and done play, where like hoping he finds an item immediately and can just go straight to Moth and skip out on this whole section. But it looks like he's going to be forced to get the big chest for the last item.
Because that's just how Ambrosia plays out sometimes, particularly when it comes to Skullwoods. Looks like Jaejo is not going to miss out on that Fire Rod, knows that there is one more item in here that is not on the boss, and is going to say, I've come all this way, I'm at least going to make sure I get it.
There it is, the last item.
Going to get a little more, no. I thought for a second that maybe Spleebie was going to turn north there and show us the bumper ledge, but I guess the graveyard ledge is a little more interesting at the moment.
Yeah, I wonder if he plans to go straight to Catfish from here. Bumper ledge is a little slow to walk to, but I'm surprised he doesn't check it, because it is just a cape away from being able to get. And it's not easy to return to, given that he's already done Skullwoods. Oh, he checked it. Okay. No, Lumberjack. They checked Lumberjack. They didn't check Bumper ledge. Oh no, he's going back this way. Okay. I am a little bit surprised that he goes all the way to Graveyard Ledge and doesn't take it to Catfish.
Goes all the way to Graveyard Ledge, doesn't carry it to Catfish, and instead comes all the way back to go north before going what I'm assuming is going to be west towards the village.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to guard himself against the hammer-locked item in... Ooh, the hammer-locked item in Thieves Town, giving him just a couple more checks, give him more chance to find that hammer before going in there. Jaejo's in a bit of a health situation. He has 2 hearts. A lot of the enemies in this area do 2 hearts of damage. Here he is using the cane, saving a little bit of time over Spleebie, having to push the statue. Jaejo does not have to do that. Ah, nice use of the powder there.
Yep, a little bit of extra game knowledge there. Bunny beam under that, I do believe. And, well, if you powder it, even if the skull is still on top, the fairy will pop out.
Yep, that is a NMG classic safety. Can be very useful if your mummy room has gone badly. Downside, you get beams for the screen. You don't want beams.
Going to want to find a way to get rid of those before you reach the moth, at the very least.
Jaejo is checking this first because he knows that there's an item on the boss, and he knows that no matter what it is, he's still going to check this, and it is a little faster to check this one first. Because you don't have to re-enter the dungeon.
It's also a bit of a convenience check when you have the mirror. You don't have to worry about getting back out from it. In situations where you don't have the mirror, it can be nice to do that one last, because then if you're in the right position, you can just go ahead and pop the old save and quit.
Small key, not the first thing you want to find in Thieves Town when you're missing the hammer.
I've kind of made my peace with finding that over the course of my rando playing days, because it does mean that whatever you find, say, on blind, the hammer could potentially still be behind it.
Ah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, there is a bit of a key logic to that. Blind does require the small key to be available. If the small key is locking itself, then you're expected to have the hammer to recover it if you were to burn another key on it. Oh, nice moth fight from Jaejo. 2 spike. Love to see it.
Yeah, 2 spike moth. Very nicely done.
And I think that would have been even faster without beams. I think a lot of that was just handling some hits not counting for their full damage. It's also a little harder to do moth without boots, because the classic opener for Mothula is to dash in place and poke moth twice, and you can't do that without the boots.
Now we've got Spleebie getting on into the back half of Thieves Town here. Not really anything game-changing so far. Jaejo picking up that second item there from Skullwoods, just 10 sticks. Not a terribly valuable Skullwoods today, but again, when you get to put the crystal on the board, you can't complain too much.
Spleebie has found the cape, which is not locking anything on Bumper Ledge, but it could be locking something in Spike Cave, and it could also be used as a safety. So, good to have.
One of the nicer safeties in the game, for a lot of late game areas in my estimation. given that we're in the Ambrosia mode rather than something like the open modified hard pool, we do have things like half magic and multiple bottles available, so making use of that cape in some areas, maybe just making the Gannon fight a little more convenient in parts, perfectly valid use of it. It's nicer to have in inventory than not.
Spleebie is counting. There's nothing here. Blind has the final item. So that's some peace of mind for Spleebie. And for Jaejo. Both of them in here without the hammer.
And it could be one of those situations where we see Blind drop the hammer since that small key was available.
Maybe Blind will drop a hammer pun for us today. Nope. Just Blind spoiling the Meyer medallion as usual.
One of the classics. I am a fan.
Very well scripted blind fight for Spleebie.
And just a little cash money. It is Spleebie's third crystal, but not really anything changing up the game for our runners coming out of Thieves Town or Skull Woods.
So I believe Spleebie has reached the point where you can no longer do crystals. So what will we be seeing from him next? Obviously, you know, Hype Cave and that, but what about after that? What's next?
There's still a pretty decent chunk of stuff along the way. You can pick up the dig game here, then you've got Mirror for the Smith sequence. Got K45 there, that cave south of the Grove, whatever you want to call that. Stumpy as well. Then, if you still don't have anything by the time you get done with the 5 items in Hype Cave, then you have problems.
Yeah, you are a little bit close to Ice Palace if you want to take the gamble that boots are actually accessible in there. Spleebie, of course, can go to Pod. Jaejo knows that there's nothing there left for him that's in logic. But Spleebie doesn't know that, and Spleebie might be expecting maybe the bow or the hammer is there.
It is interesting the mention of Ice Palace there, because as we start counting down the remaining number of checks, it becomes more and more likely that something is there. Now, what that something is still a bit of a question.
Where was Red Cane? Front of Pod. That's why Jaejo has it. Spleebie did Eastern in the Light World. Jaejo did Aghanim into Pod into Eastern. Jaejo got immediately locked out of Pod, but was rewarded with the cane that Spleebie doesn't have, but at the cost of doing Aghanim when Spleebie didn't. So Spleebie doing Dig Game first indicates that he intends to turn in the purple chest on the way down because he cannot do Dig Game while going a follower. Okay, I love this trick Spleebie's showing. You don't have to be facing up to do Magic Bat. You just have to be pressing the... You just have to be touching the altar. Oh, nice. So that's an interesting location because you have to mirror to it. And you can't get back to your mirror portal. So you have to go back to the Dark World through your Mitz portal at the very top of Kakariko Village. Spleebie has left behind, both of them have left behind an item in Eastern that is bow locked.
Not only that, but it's going to give Spleebie some more incentive to go to Palace of Darkness when that lands on his radar later on the route.
Yeah, Spleebie is going full commitment onto this purple chest, going back into the Dark World. There is also, of course, Hype Cave and all that stuff down there too, so it makes sense to go back here. In fact, I think he has to. I don't think there's any other entry to the Dark World he has besides Ice Palace. Even if he wanted to go to Pod, he still has to go through this portal. Jaejo does not. Jaejo could go back through the Aga portal. He could save and quit in the Dark World and be right there.
And we'll see what Jaejo wants to do now that the Thieves Hound crystal is on the board and he's evened those crystal counts back up. Still has some checks to do here in Village of Outcasts. That's an interesting thought from chat that maybe a swim to catfish and a turn-in of the mushroom could also be in the offing. Though at the moment it seems that Spleebie is content to cover this Southern Dark World loop with the purple chest in tow.
Spleebie has an option also to... He probably won't do this, but he has the option to dip Swamp Palace for one item. And he is going to be walking right past it, so he could. You know, you could do it, but I think having the bow will disincentivize that, because now he knows he can do all of Pod except for the boss. Hook shot. Well, it's a piece of the pendant swamp puzzle, I guess. It is also Hookshot Cave, East Death Mountain. There's a lot of stuff up there that got unlocked by that hookshot.
That could be the thing that lures Spleebie away from making a play into Hammerless Palace of Darkness.
It is. The cane, though, is one of those items you can put off and not be too punished by. The one thing that will hurt him is if he goes to ice without it and loses a little bit of that icebreaker time. But most of the time, the cane is locking you out of a whole dungeon, TR. And it's locking you out of the boss of Mire, and not a whole lot else.
Otherwise it is just a bit of a convenience item, although some of those conveniences are fairly nice.
Spleebie found the bottle. That was after he was in the vicinity of Sick Kid, right?
That was well after, yes. I want to say that was K45? No, it was Purple Chest, wasn't it?
Oh, Spleebie, please. Alright, he got 1 out of 3 chest turn attempts in Hype Cave. Good effort. Oh, it was Purple Chest, that's vanilla. It's a vanilla bottle. And Jaejo maybe going to catfish from Graveyard Ledge. Because now he has no incentive to turn back around like Spleebie did.
Yeah, Spleebie's route to check out the Graveyard Ledge and Bumper here seems to have worked out for him.
He's doing Swamp. Okay. That's a heck of a play. It could be something good here. It could be a waste of time. Who knows?
In situations where you have, that in Jaejo's case, what you thought initially was going to be Agadark World access, or even just the Midst Dark World access, it takes a while to get here. So if you're already in the vicinity, it's not the worst thing in the world to go ahead and make the check. Because if the hammer is there and you don't make the check, then you're going to be punished with a whole lot of additional walking, in addition to not having the hammer for however long. It's a gamble of time either way, but it's not a gamble that I particularly dislike.
Spleebie, what are you doing? I think he was trying to hookshot the chest. It's quick swapped onto the wrong item.
The bombs are, perhaps unsurprisingly, not a hookshot.
They're not. Not even an item, it's the map. Alright, well, it's a little lost time for Spleebie, and Jaejo has the chance to find something at Catfish and Mushroom Turn-In that Spleebie will not get for a while. So I think this is the predicted mountain play for Spleebie. Hookshot does unlock the entirety of East Death Mountain, including the Dark World.
Already has the Hera side of the mountain there on the west done, with the exception of Spike Cave, which is not accessible without a hammer anyway. So it gives him access to pretty much everything that he wants right at the moment. All of those chances to get the hammer amongst other things that are still missing. Jaejo using that mushroom turn-in time as an additional excuse to stock up on a spare blue potion for just in case. I've always been a firm believer in the idea that I have the safety so that I don't need it. It allows me to play more freely. As soon as I have that blue potion in the back pocket, everything just seems to become so much easier.
That is true. Safeties are a state of mind as much as they are a lifesaver. Spleebie has found another potion bottle in East Death Mountain, Paradox Cave as well. We don't know what the medallions are for TR and Meyer yet. We don't have the ability to check the Meyer medallion until we get the flute. But Spleebie can check TR right now to at least see what it is, even though he cannot get inside.
And Jaejo showing off one of the more commonly used whirlpools, but again, kind of that mindset of the entrance runner, going to go ahead and use the whirlpool there in the light world next to the catfish area that he was just at, to hop right on down to Ice Palace. And here we go, the hammerless ice play.
So, this could reward him with the boots. Could reward him with a hammer.
Boots out of the Pin Gator's room could be really interesting as we see Spleebie making that long, slow walk through Spiral Cave.
It is just a small key, though. I guess that means Jaejo doesn't have to make the decision of, like, do I keep going? Found the boots here. There's one other item that I can actually get right now. What are the odds that it's the hammer? Or something else. Locking the hammer.
And it looks like he's going to go ahead and play as if maybe it is going to go as far as hitting the switch here.
Ooh, that is an optimism play. I like to see optimism plays. You don't want to play as if you're losing, because that is how you lose. I always like the Super Bunny case strat where you do the hookshot clip first and quick swap to mirror while on the hookshot, just to get that little extra speed boost out of the hookshot.
I like it because I'm terrible at the second half of the hookshot clip when you push the one block and then you clip through on the second one. At half the time I just lose it entirely. So as long as I have the mirror, I'm always going to do that instead.
I do realize now Jaejo is in here without the hookshot. This is going to slow down his passage through Ice Palace. Yeah, okay. Because if he had found the big key, for example, he wouldn't have been able to get the big chest. He'd have to bomb the floor instead of hookshot. But it looks like he found the two items he can get to. And they were not the boots. So the boots are either hammerlocked or they're on Cold Stare. Or they're hammerlocked in Cold Stare, and Spleebie finds the hammer in Hookshot Cave. So it is just on the critical path. Get your hookshot from Hype Cave and then go to the mountain.
Jaejo, meanwhile, going to be forced right back to that portal to the Dark World at 3, going to have to get onto that Southern Dark World loop.
Oh, we saw both items. Okay, so, yeah, I wasn't counting, but yes, we did see both items. That means it is definitely Cold Stare. Unfortunately,
here is a check that we may have forgotten about, and amidst all of the things that Spleebie was finding, the small child had remained unchecked because of where the bottle was, and it's the final sword. Small child playing with something sharp in bed. Best to take that away.
normally I would say he's taking his temperature, but that's a little bit hotter than the tempered sword. Spleebie is beelining Ice Palace. He wants his boots. Can't blame him. He will not have the cane for this, but he will have the boots for Pod. And that might make up for it.
If much is usually forgiven of a seed once you can finally go fast. Not always, of course. Some seeds are just terrible anyway. I'm glancing over at chat and I see the line, "What if it's progressive hammers?" That now I'm having a little giggle to myself.
What would the first and second hammer do?
I'm not even sure. That's what makes it funny.
One of them lifts. One of them smashes normal pegs. One of them smashes like those fence posts, and you can just go out of bounds. A hammer that does silver arrows damage, so you can just hit Helmasaur's mask in one hit.
Oh, so I get it. So it's for swordless mode. I understand now. It's for mashing Gannon just as hard and as fast as possible.
Oh, dual wielding. Oh, so it's like in Twilight Princess where your hookshot upgrade is just a second hookshot. Yeah, I like that. What would a second hookshot look like in A Link to the Past?
I feel like given the way this game doesn't handle doing multiple things at the same time very well, what it would look like was completely game-breaking.
Okay, I realize that I shouldn't be asking that question because I actually know what a second hookshot looks like in A Link to the Past because he actually can get 2 hookshots on screen at a time, and it is very, very broken, and it is very, very banned.
Do not attempt to do this in your tournament races unless your rule set is major glitches of some flavor.
Maybe in the summer you'll get to see it in the No Logic tournament.
I'll admit that that is not personally my preferred type of the play of this game, but it is always nice to see the community kind of growing and finding different little things to do. Some people probably heard the name Pottery Lottery floating around. That is its own particular brand of weirdness.
Are you saying Pottery Lottery Tournament 2023?
I'm not saying it, but it certainly wouldn't shock me.
I remember when V30 came out and introduced Inverted. Somebody on Discord said, Inverted is going to be the last big thing to happen to Rando. We've run out of ideas. Can you believe... Imagine Inverted being the last thing added to Rando, and nothing changing since then. That would be a very different world.
I'd like to introduce you to the Bomberman mode. That is a wonderful, if certainly offbeat, different little flavor of Rando that came out several months back now.
You get to take all your weapons and throw them in the trash. All you get is bombs, but you can throw them willy-nilly. You can even like run NMG with it. It's kind of fun.
Yes, I've done that. I think that another one of the runners in this tournament, Structural Mike, even has a very unofficial spreadsheet leaderboard for that.
Spleebie is about to head to Cold Stare. He has found his 2 items, and he knows. He knows the boots are waiting on this boss, so he goes directly to them. Jaejo is doing the swamp play as well. Interesting.
Probably in a very similar kind of mindset. If the hammer is here and I don't check this, how do I ever make it back? I've cleared everything else in the area, especially from his point of view, having already made that dive into Hammerless Ice Palace.
Yeah, I mean, and you found the hook shot, and you think, if it's just behind that, it's over for me. Because I'm already behind from Aghanim. I've already done Hammerless Ice. It needs to be here for me to stay in this one.
At this point, Jaejo probably does need something to be more than a little out of the way, something that is off the path that he checks that Spleebie does not. And we do still have a few possibilities for that. The flute and potentially a medallion for Meyer would be the obvious outstanding ones.
And the Ice Rod.
And the Ice Rod, the ever elusive, except when it's just vacationing on Laser Bridge, Ice Rod.
Spleebie is doing Bonk Rocks and King's Tomb. With these boots he just got, that is all they do for him, besides make him go fast and make him hover.
And already settled on that mushroom. We're probably going to see the mushroom turn in at the end of this particular loop.
Oh, this explains why he's doing Bonk Rocks first. I was wondering about that.
The bonk checks, unfortunately, not paying out today, except in Peace of Mind, which is something that you do like to have every now and again as a runner.
The good thing about boots, even when they don't lead to anything, they're still the boots, and you're still happy to have them.
Spleebie going to go ahead and collect that bottle, free the bee from it, fill it with a blue potion. And again, one of those safeties in the back pocket. We did see him scrolling through those with Quick Swap. Has a fairy and a red potion as well. If the fourth bottle comes equipped with green goo right from the outset, we could have the complete rainbow of bottles.
So I expect Spleebie to go to pod now. It is the most appealing option for him. And he will come across his Cane of Samaria. Oh, he's doing Pyramid Fairy into pod. Pyramid Fairy is a thing. Assuming he goes to pod after this. He could go to Catfish. He hasn't done that yet.
It seems fairly reasonable given the relative number of things that Spleebie needs to go ahead and hit the next crystal dungeon that he knows he can clear. That, of course, being pod. Now, he doesn't know that Turtle Rock is going to be on the table, but once he gets into pod, he'll know that. And with that bow, he's going to be able to collect quite a bit more from that dungeon than Jaejo was able to. Speaking of Jaejo just now getting the news that Quake is the medallion for Turtle Rock, and he already has it.
Spleebie going down. This is pod. I think pod is very likely to have progression for him, either through the cane or through something deeper inside.
Since we've been alluding to the no major glitches run a handful of times already, I'll say we're seeing some very classic dash lines here on the trip from Pyramid to Palace of Darkness.
Spleebie knows how to do Kiki. Even getting that little Kiki dash at the end to make sure that Kiki is moving at full speed when you hit the trigger for Kiki beginning the climb. If you just dash straight into it, Kiki will walk at a very leisurely pace towards you before jumping up the mountain. Jumping up the building, sorry. Jaejo's on the mountain and is entering TR. Right, he can do this because he has the cane. So he gets a little advantage of not having to double dip the mountain for this. Assuming Ice Rod is not in pod.
Yeah, Jaejo partisans at this point are hoping that either the Ice Rod is in here and that Jaejo can make a little hay out of that, or that the Ice Rod is behind something he finds here, which at this point would pretty much have to be the flute. Or I guess if the flute is in Palace of Darkness or somewhere else, that the Myra Medallion is in here and he finds it. Spleebie having a little bit of an argument with that crystal switch. The blue boomerang does not have the range, and the first bow shot went ever so slightly astray.
They call that room archery contest for a reason. Oh, the flute was in Turtle Rock. Okay, so is the required item? Question is it locking the ice rod? Oh. And Jaejo having an argument with the chest and chain chomps.
Jaejo36, or as we can call him now, dances with chain chomps. But that flute is the interesting kind of find that we were talking about there. It gets you into the mire area. We do not yet know, since the flute just now appeared, what the medallion requirement is going to be there. But
Yeah, go ahead.
But this could be the out that Jaejo needs, particularly if Spleebie winds up somehow in Swamp Palace. Now, I can't really imagine it. You've got everything but the boss available now that you have the red cane in inventory, but every once in a while the lure of that green pendant just exerts a pull on runners that you can't otherwise quantify.
There is a little situation that could happen with that flute and TR. If the flute is locking the ice rod, Jaejo can save the portal, or Spleebie can save the portal and Jaejo cannot, because Jaejo has defeated Aghanim.
Spleebie's still looking for items in the back here, so we must have at least one in addition to whatever's on the boss, and 10 sticks is the answer. So unless Almosaur King's going to pay out, I don't know that we've really seen a great deal of additional value coming from the Palace of Darkness play. Get the cane, leave, come back later, seems to be okay.
Ice rod in the Turtle Rock big chest. Big advantage for Jaejo.
Gets to do the entirety of this in one dive on this mountain climb. Now, Spleebie's going to wind up with an additional mountain climb on top of that, because Misery Mire has to be cleared at some point.
This is also potentially go mode for Jaejo, if Quake is the medallion for Misery Mire.
A 33% chance is a lot to ask. I expect that we'll see Jaejo check all of Laser Bridge, whether or not he finds a small key in the first chest check that he checks, but you never know.
You definitely don't skip things in TR. You could be justified maybe skipping Spike Cave and coming back later, because I think what you'd want to do is you'd want to immediately activate that flute and check. And then check the stuff in the mire area first when it's not the medallion you have. And Spike Cave you can return to, in theory, on its own mountain climb. It would be a little slower, but not that much.
And there's Jaejo with that counting items again, leaving that last check on Laser Bridge, which has to be a dungeon item here. As long as he's counted correctly, anyway. But we have Helmasaur exploding on Spleebie's side. The result is $5, but also a 5th crystal. That is a 5-3 crystal advantage for Spleebie at the moment as Jaejo walks into the Trinex fight.
It's a very temporary 5-3, because Jaejo will be finishing off Trinex very closely.
Butter Sword does all the damage the developers intended. You can butter up both heads with just 3 slashes, and then 3 more on the main... it stops being a neck and starts being an entire snake at some point. But, yeah, Trinex exploding all the same.
Spleebie is choosing to walk out of pod to do catfish. That is a very interesting play. He did just full clear the dungeon and find nothing except the cane. So it's an interesting play because the cane is the only thing he got here, but he knows that the cane was accessible from bowless, hammerless dip if he decided to do that. So he might be playing against somebody who would have done that and trying to do his own thing to stay ahead if he is ahead and to not fall behind.
Trying to pick off that one last one-off location over here, just against the possibility that maybe Jaejo picked it up earlier and does not want to leave it behind. Meanwhile, we should note that the item that Jaejo pulled off of that Trinex kill was the Bomb Boost Medallion, now a 67% chance of having the right medallion for Misery Mire.
Oh, going for the quick fish, not quite making it. Catfish's circle is actually a square and you can hit the corner, but it's a little bit tight. It's not always obvious where you're supposed to throw it. Interestingly, Jaejo has not picked up his boots yet. So unlike Spleebie decided to beeline those boots. Jaejo did not. He is going straight for the flute. I'm guessing he will... That's the thing, he could do ice now. It's nothing about the medallion info is going to change that. So he probably should do ice first.
Nothing else that he's going to get is going to alter in any way the play in ice, so... And with that Fire Rod coming out and the Flute to 8, yep, that's going to be the ice play.
And that will make the Mire check just a little bit faster, even if it will put Jaejo in suspense for a little bit. It will also put us in suspense. We will not see that medallion for a while because Spleebie doesn't have it yet. Spleebie has a ways to go before getting the flute.
And it looks like he's trying to do a little more lower world cleanup before biting the bullet on a play back up the mountain. I think what we're getting here is a hammer pegs check, perhaps?
Yeah, hammer pegs. I'd forgotten about this check. He really does seem averse to going into TR without the ice rod. Can't blame him, but the longer he puts it off, the more time he gives back to Jaejo. Starting at the house? Nope, starting at the mountain. This is good for him.
Has to be reasonably low on locations that aren't Pendant Swamp, if not essentially out at this point.
I was worried he was going to do Pendant Swamp, but I think most people will not choose Swamp over TR looking for an ice rod.
And there is still that outside chance that Ether is required for Mire and that Pendant Swamp is its home, but at this point it makes a lot of sense to be in that Crystal Dungeon, and especially on Spleebie's side where he did not opt for the Aga 1 kill, found his Dark World access via the Mitts, and would be able to save the portal if it happens to be on the overworld somewhere, but if it's in Swamp, all bets are off anyway.
He doesn't have any overworld left, that's the problem. It's nice dig. It's, he would have to, again, he'd have to find the flute and it had to be behind the flute. Okay, that's not true. There is still the Eastern Palace boss. I don't think anyone does in last location Ether on Armos Knights, if that was the required medallion.
In some ways, the way that Eastern Palace was as stacked as it was might lend a little credence to the idea of going for a second bite at that apple if you start having to make terrible choices.
That certainly would be a way to bring it back if you feel behind.
Jaejo with the cold stare kill, picks those boots up. has 5 crystals of his own all of a sudden. We're probably just going to see the plate of pod here, I would think, since, no, going to
No,
go
he's
ahead. Gonna check Meyer first, although I feel like he doesn't... Oh, right, he didn't
needs
have the
to
bow
know.
first trip, so he wants to know, because that way he could just go mow the boss.
Yes, he needs to know
That makes more
if
sense.
he's in go mode or not. It's really important. He knows this. It is Quake. We are in go mode on Jaejo's side. Spleebie still not in go mode, but ahead on crystals. Is this race closer than I thought?
No, they are... Spleebie is not ahead on crystals any longer. They are tied.
Oh, yeah. This is actually a race. Because Jaejo first in go mode.
Jaejo doing that thing that he does so often, just kind of quietly, unassumingly going about the seed, and then suddenly he's in go mode and skunking you like he does. It happens more often than I like to admit.
Yeah. Do you think Jaejo is actually in the lead right now? Because that full clear pod that Spleebie did put him quite a bit behind.
I think he might be. Both of them are going to have to find this Meyer big key. Although Jaejo is going to have to find the pod big, and I do not recall where that was right off the top of my head, so he may have a decent chunk of pod that he has to do anyway. Was it in Dark Maze?
Oh, if it's in Dark Maze, that's not good for Jaejo. That will nullify most of the advantage he has over Spleebie getting to go mode that dungeon. Essentially, he will not get to go mode the dungeon. Bottom Dark Maze is actually your last location, I think, when you're looking in pod.
So the ultimate answer is we have a race, and we're not entirely sure what the relative standing is. Jaejo first in go mode, but Spleebie is going to land on it as he goes about clearing TR.
Looks like Meyer is holding out. Going for a little door state extension. Not quite getting it. It is a 1 frame input followed by a same frame input. So it is not free.
And once you spend that much time on it, you are losing time trying to do it.
Curious why he goes through Bomb Slug Room. Oh, because it gets you to this check. Okay.
Wants to make terrible check as Spleebie enters go mode, although he does not know that yet. Going to need the Meyer information to know that that quake is required.
I think Spleebie's in real go mode now, and I think he will be in mental go mode when he gets bombos. And then he will be in full go mode when he checks the Meyer medallion. Nice little last minute safety here in Crystal Roller Room. Also nice dodge on that roller. That was very tight.
It's one of those movements that is pretty simple to look at, but looks impressive because it is.
It's one of those that you don't like necessarily... If it, like an untrained eye might not even know you're doing anything special in there. But Jaejo, interesting, is not going for spooky at all. Just going straight for the bombs. Spleebie. Counting items. Good. Skipping what must be the map on that last laser bridge. Check. And now we have Jaejo getting a crystal at the same time Spleebie does. So the difference is what's looking like a really long full fire and also a pretty long full clear of pop are big keys. And Spleebie also has to activate his flute. But Jaejo's boss does go down first, so Jaejo is the first out of his crystal number 6.
But Spleebie, not to be left behind, has Trinex exploding as well. Going to have crystal number 6 falling from the sky on his side momentarily. Also, that piece of mind Bombos medallion. Not actually meaningful, but when you're sitting in 33% chance of go mode and then you pick up another medallion off of something you were going to do anyway, feels pretty good.
The pot big key is in Dark Maze. This is why Jaejo not necessarily as clear-cut look. But Spleebie also has to activate the flute, so it's not just Meyer that he is behind by.
Now, while Spleebie has to run over and activate that flute, the trek over to Palace of Darkness has its own series of trials and tribulations. It's not exactly the shortest trip in the world.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, it is. It is a trek. It's almost... Wow, I mean, Jaejo is in a pod before Spleebie is in Meyer, but... Or even before Spleebie's flute is active. And Spleebie also has to open Meyer, and that is a cutscene. And depending on whether he does the cutscene chest, there's also that issue. Like, he could fall behind even further while in Meyer.
Jaejo remembering, even after all this time, that yes, he did pull an item, not a key, out of that very first check that he made here, and that he's going to have to go this way. No standing there bouncing off the center door with no key.
Hey, it's the race to the big key for Jaejo and Spleebie.
And no, not even the GT big key. It's separate big keys and separate dungeons before we even get there. But it's the race before the race, as you will.
This is very close.
Jaejo finding that second item in the front of Palace of Darkness in the drop-down 10 sticks doesn't really change a whole lot, although getting that after you've killed Vitreous using sticks for the main eyeball phase, not the worst thing in the world.
What is faster, going to Vidi or going to Helmasaur? I would expect the Helmasaur trip to be a little faster, but it does have a cutscene in it.
I was going to say the trip to Vidi, but I'm not sure.
Alright, if you're on Team Spleebie, you don't want him going to cutscene, good. Ooh, I love that hammer dash, it's so cool.
It's nice as long as the fire snake doesn't get in the way.
Spleebie having a little bit of an easier time with this door state extension, and is going to be the first to his big key. Oh my. I absolutely hate this chest too, Sky. This is the worst.
It's a terrible check, and it should feel bad.
I think, and I expect Spleebie will also have spooky arms going into here.
It's a nice 10 to 15 second time save as long as you make it work.
I think we have a commanding race, Ack. This is a lead for us. We are being treated to an actual race. Which is what we came here for, isn't it? Alright, that's Spooky 1 in the bag. Spooky 2, saving a good 10 seconds on not getting Spooky. And finally, everyone's favorite Under Torch, Spooky 3. And making use of the powder so that he can do NMG strats on Vitreous. And here we go, we got Jaejo in the cutscene and Spleebie and Vitreous. Spleebie is now in the lead. Yeah, that pothole clear is punishing. And it is very lucky for Spleebie that Jaejo was forced into it.
Okay, so it's been an hour and 24 minutes. Finally, Spleebie has collected crystal number 7. It's been a bit of a long and winding road to get here. But here we are, 7 crystals in hand. It's time for that last climb up the mountain. Time to go rummage around in Gannon's basement. 22 checks there. Well, most of them are trash, but one of them is treasure. That big key that he needs to go complete the seed. Jaejo taking care of the Helmasaur King, about to collect his 7th crystal, going to be about 2/3 of a mountain climb behind, would you say, as a rough guesstimate?
Sounds about right. We still have to go into that portal and go across the bridge to Gannon's tower, open it with the crystals. I think we will mark our time there to see who enters GT first and at what time. I mean, I say who enters GT first. It's gonna be Spleebie. Spoiler alert. By how much is the real question.
And then the question after that becomes, what route is Spleebie going to take through Gannon's tower? Where does the big key lie? And is Jaejo going to follow that route, or does he have something else in mind?
$125.48 on the crystal cutscene for Spleebie.
And going to start the checks in Hope Room. With a map and a fiver, so not the ability to go right there. I don't know if Spleebie is normally a Hope right with a small key player or not.
Ooh, 3 silvers.
Not turning those down, ever.
No matter how good your silverless Gannon is, you still want to go faster than your opponent. You're not going to sacrifice speed. So, Jaejo is a minute and 10 seconds-ish behind, by my estimates.
That sounds good as a rule of thumb.
Jaejo has the chance to diverge from Spleebie by taking a magician route, by going to the Stalfos room first, finding a key mirroring out and going right. And it looks like that might be what he does. So this could turn around.
I'm not sure. He may also just be a full left player. Now, I know I've been claiming as a friend, and he is, but I don't usually watch him play through the entirety of Seeds all that often, because it's often cross keys, and that's longer than I really like in my rando.
You don't do, like, magician routes and cross keys, you just full clear GT, because it has items in it.
That's also probably true, but again, I don't play it.
Given that Jaejo is pointedly ignoring these Stalfos, I think he is, in fact, going right. So if it is on the right side, Jaejo will take a lead. If it is on Armos, it will be very close. Assuming Jaejo continues full right, but most people don't. Most people mirror out and go left.
Full right is a bit of a meme play. I do not necessarily recommend it unless you're doing it to have fun, in which case, by all means, feel free.
He's not looking good for Spleebie here. No thing in Random Room, which is the last thing Jaejo's not doing here. So, could still be Armos Knights. Could still be Bob's Chest. Could still be Tile Room. I think Jaejo has to reset the timer in this room because he lost time and will lose that torchlight. So he's choosing to lose a little less time now as opposed to losing the entire torch room later.
Got a little bullied by both the Gibdo and then the Wall Master as well. We're just making life a little more difficult than he really wanted to deal with there.
Now I want it to be Tile Room. Because if it's anything but Tile Room, one of them will have the GT big key advantage, and we'll just be climbing GT first. Like it looks like Spleebie is just
Compass Room.
Spleebie will just be in the lead now. But if it's in Tile Room, it's close again. Oh, no, it's just here. All right, Spleebie now has a commanding lead. You can say it now, Ak.
Jaejo could have cut into that a bit with the meme full right play, but has opted not to.
Part of the reason full right is a meme is because it is a little slower to go that way, and he would still have been behind. That is the Monka S chest, because that's the last thing you open before Tile Room for a lot of routes. It will be Jaejo's last one before Tile Room.
Spleebie up into the gauntlet now, has the silver arrows, has the half magic, has the butter sword, just does not get a whole lot freer.
And this is where he takes the NMG out of his pocket. And pulls it out for the gauntlet. There, a nice dash line in Gauntlet 3. It's a pretty tight dash line to not hit the spike and still hit the enemies. Spleebie likes to fire an arrow here. You do need 2 for that one. Because he did turn off his silvers, funny enough.
The arrow strat in the 2 Zazak room, which I believe is Gauntlet 4, is kind of nice. You hold, I think it's down right coming into the room and fire that arrow before starting your dash because it takes care of 1 or 2 of that top red Zazak's RNGs where it can just kind of otherwise be out of the way of your dash.
Yeah. And the arrow strat in Gauntlet 5 is it's normally like a magic optimization strat. In the speedrun, you can save a fire rod's worth of magic if that arrow lands, and still menu buffer to see if the arrow's actually going to hit. In Rando, it's more of a, I don't have the time to quick swap, so I'm just going to use the arrow because that's what I practice and it usually works. There are RNGs that will punish the arrow strat though, and you have to recognize them and be ready to switch the fire rod when you see it.
Jaejo also has the big key now. Unfortunately for him, Spleebie is in Torches 1, although having a bit of a misadventure there, falling off one of the more precarious ledges in the game.
Oh no, Spleebie. Okay, good. He had time, but then he got that weird little, like, same frame fire rod shot in the wrong direction. Did not lose the room to it, though. That is what matters. Really nothing left for Spleebie to find up here, so we will not be opening chests, although I would like to see a mirror shield because I like the colors that he becomes when he has the mirror shield and the blue mail and butter sword. It looks very cool.
It is a very thematically appropriate to your name kind of color scheme.
Yes, it is indeed. I call it the sweetest Link. I also like it on his sprite because his hair is also yellow and it just looks extra good.
kind of an interesting non-hook dodge the mini Helmasaur and then start the dash strat there from Spleebie. I'm not sure that I'd seen that particular one before, but it worked pretty well.
That is the mark of somebody who knows how to hover the Moldorm 2 gap, because sometimes you're there without a hook shot, and you actually need to have a strat for that room without hook shot.
I'm pretty sure my strat, if it ever came to that, would be, I'm going to equip the cape. And if I don't have the cape, then I'm going to cry.
That is fair. Ooh, Lambo 2 getting away from Jaejo. If you miss the first silver arrow, it can be really hard to get the rhythm back. So he switches to Fire Rod and using the Butter Sword, which does the same damage as Fire Rod. Still getting away though. Those are giving me some really, really nasty jumps going all over the shop. Yeah, Sky, I didn't even notice he was teasing at a little out of bounds clip you can do up there. That is very banned. Ooh, oh! Jaejo going for the magic, falls in the pit. Most people not really used to going in the room in that direction, so it's easy for the collision to get away from you there. Meanwhile, Spleebie gets a nice little Butter Sword Gannon, pretty free.
Butter Sword, Silvered Gannon, it's really tough, although not impossible to have problems here. Most of them tend to revolve around stopping Gannon when you don't want to and having him hug you off the ledge.
Yeah, I think Silver Arrows is actually like the source of most Gannon falls, because you try to like squeeze yourself between him and the platform to get those nice triples. Or you freeze him on you and telefrag yourself. Nice little cheeky attempt at... What is he doing? Spleebie! No, Spleebie, what are you doing? Okay.
Spleebie is having the adventure that we were talking about, but
Yeah,
there we go. Manages to clean it up with a double there right at the end.
Playing with our hearts there. It almost looked like he was like trying to get like cape spins or something, or like silverless hits with the Butter Sword while Gannon teleports away.
Jaejo, a man after my own heart, going to go ahead and open up the ultimate chest of the game, just sees that it has 2.5 times its vanilla value. But go ahead and get your GGs in chat for Spleebie, who has crossed that bridge and ended the reign of terror of the big Gannon.
Let's see. So we got Aga 2 for Jaejo. What is this going to look like? I imagine he will not be teasing an out-of-bounds clip in this one. Ooh, nice doubles on these, like, blue ball RNGs. Oh, that's a really nice fight.
Cleaned up very well, and we'll see one more pig slaying this evening. We have one more pig to roast yet. I missed it the first time, the whole grain products line. Gannon looking after our health today, even as we come to roast him up, butter him up, and otherwise make live pig into naught.
You know what goes well with whole grain bread? Butter.
Luckily enough for both of our runners, they have plenty of that today. Silver's Gannon's one true weakness. Looks like Jaejo is going to go ahead and open up with a double there. Looks
Very
in good
clean
position for a second one. There it is.
Gannon is toast.
Gannon may also be a bacon of despair, according to Blind, but here we are all the same. Jaejo going to stand there with that sword in the victory position. gonna be just a couple of minutes late here, but go ahead and get your GGs in chat all the same. A wonderful show put on by both of our runners this evening. And with that, we are joined in the booth by the victor in tonight's race, Spleebie. Good game to you.
Hey, thanks.
That one came a little closer than I expected with Jaejo doing an Aga tower play. It almost snuck up on me that he was caught up to you almost in the final dungeon.
Yeah, you see, he mentioned in the race chat that he fell for the Aga bait.
It was very easy bait. Like I would have done that too. Because you have the mirror, you can just go to Saucerland on the way to pod.
Yeah, I really thought about it too. I almost did it, but I was like, no, I don't want to just get one thing on the edge and one in pod, and then have to go back to Eastern anyway. So if I had had the hook shot already or something, so I could get to West Dark World, then I probably would have.
We are also joined by the runner-up here, the second finisher. Jaejo, good game to you.
Hey, GG's.
Hey, GG.
GG.
It does seem like we kind of jumped right in with the big play that kind of hinged the match here. But Jaejo, go ahead and talk to us a little bit about the choice to make the Aga play there.
So I was kind of thinking about it pretty much through, once I got the lamp out of Sanctuary, I was like, all right, we just need one more sword, and then lo and behold, it was in Kakariko already. So I was thinking about Aga 1 then, and I stayed in the Light World, and eventually got the glove out of Waterfalls, like, okay, we can go up to the mountain, and then see what's up there. And then got the Moon Pearl. So there was the hesitation, like maybe the hammer or the mitts will just be in Eastern or Saha. But because I was thinking about it before, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And then, like you said, just kind of mirror back if it doesn't work out. And it didn't work out, so I mirrored back and then got the mitts.
And for all of that, there was a point, I think it was around the 5 crystal mark, where you evened things up and then were very briefly ahead 6-5. But the deepness of the Palace of Darkness big key in pod was kind of your undoing up to that point. It looked like you might have managed to sneak in a bit of a lead.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that because I had dipped it earlier, got Samaria, and was stopped at the door. So I was thinking that the only way this works out well for me, because even at ones, like I wasn't too worried about that. I felt behind, but after Skull Woods and Thieves Town, I turned into Smiths, then went to go check Bumper and Graveyard and Catfish. So when that didn't pan out, and then that's when I was starting to feel really behind. So I started making a couple of desperation plays. I dipped Ice without Hammer, and Boots ended up being on the boss. So that didn't work out either. So that's why when I got the Hammer, I was like, I have to keep this going. So I went into Turtle Walk right away. But when it came to pod, it's like the only way this really works out is if the big key is in the front and I can skip looking in the back. And it ended up being in the very last chest, as it turns out.
Yeah, it really didn't work in your favor there. And then GT was like, you had the chance to get lucky there too with the divergence in Gannon's tower. It really did end up coming down to whether it was right or left.
Yeah, I usually do the DM strats. So I don't do full left very often.
I usually always do Hope Room and then left. And do Compass if Hope has a key. but who knows?
Now, since Turtle Rock was one of those turning points, Spleebie, it did look like you spent a lot of time kind of cleaning up one-off checks on the lower world before going ahead and biting the bullet on that TR play. Was that more of an intention or just kind of a statement that I don't think Ice Rod is up there? Or, just talk us through that one a little bit.
Yeah, it was kind of just worry that it wasn't like I already stayed in Eastern. Like I thought about leaving Eastern as soon as I got the mids. I don't normally do that, and I hate like just getting something and dipping out. Stayed in there, got the fire rod, and then after getting the flute in Turtle Rock, well, I guess before even entering Turtle Rock, I was like, well, I don't think we're gonna get another rod in the dungeon. But I don't know. Like I felt like I either needed to go to Turtle Rock or Swamp, and I didn't want to do either, so I just did everything else. And then it's like, okay, fine, we'll do Turtle Rock and hope it's there. And then, getting flute, I'm instantly worried that, Ice Rod's just going to be in Mire or something. But ended up staying.
There was a point where we were speculating on that, and you having not done Aga versus Jaejo having done Aga, if it had been down there, you would have potentially been able to save a portal while he wouldn't have been. And it didn't wind up playing out that way, but it was kind of an interesting couple of minutes for everybody watching at home.
Yeah, a little less so given that all you had left was Swamp.
Yeah.
So it would have to be literally in Mirestead or in Mire for it to be portal savable. Otherwise, you're doing Swamp or Checkerboard Cave.
Yeah, exactly. Before I found the flute, I was like, well, I've ruled out everything that lets me save my portal. So it was kind of funny. And then I got the flute and I was like, well, okay.
Yeah, another thing you could have found in there was the book, and that's also not very portal save friendly. You could do either tablet, but can you do either tablet? Yeah, it's awful though.
Yeah, you got to go all the way around. It sucks.
No. Oh. Might as well just go
I guess
TR.
you're already on East Death Mountain, so you can just climb Paradox and run over.
Yeah, that's what you'd have to do. Ugh. And then it's not going to be there. It's just going to be in Swamp. So,
And I really had, you probably noticed kind of a crisis when I found the Fire Rod. Because it was Dark World Access and Fire Rod, and then I was like, sweet, we can go to Ice Palace and get the boots.
Mm-hmm. But what Ambrosia,
I
Cold
really
Stare.
wanted to, and then I was like, no, we need to go to Skull Woods or something instead. And yeah.
We
so
talked
I kind of
about
went back
that
and
a
forth
lot.
on that.
There was a lot of like, but the boots, are they that good? Are they Ice Palace good? Hammerless Ice. What if they're not even accessible? Like, you don't have the hammer, and you know that there's an item on Cold Stare.
Yeah. And I ended up compromising with the early Swamp Dip. That was for Magno.
Both of you did that.
Yeah, both of you did that.
Yeah, I usually never go for that play.
And don't worry about the being tempted to ice there. I was on your side. I was tempted. It was definitely Malmo who was talking me back down off the ledge of, let's just go dip Hammerless Ice Palace. Try to find those boots nice and early.
I'm the one saying the boots are not that good. Think about that.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take from someone who literally never plays without boots.
Yeah.
I think maybe I've forgotten what it's like to play without boots.
Well, let's see some bootless, no logic races going up.
So Brahmin mode.
Doing Michael K, maybe.
We'll put in the tournament mode vote for Brahmin to vote on.
Anyway, I'm excited to watch this one back and see this back and forth. It should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was a good race. A lot of twists and turns. Thanks for showing us this seed. Give our runners a follow. Jaejo36 and Spleebie are in Group G of this tournament. We also have a few races coming up tomorrow. If you put in the schedule for ALTTPR, you can see what it is. There's way too many to list. I tried to do it this morning and ran out of breath. And then also give a shout out to my co-commentator, MindDM, and our tracker, Felicity.
Kind of looks like we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. So, Jaejo, let's go to you here first. Any final thoughts on this one? Thoughts on the group going forward?
It's been pretty fun so far. So I'm glad that I was at least able to make this a closer race than what it felt like in the middle. We still have the second game against everybody in Group G, so there's still a long ways to go. But I'm pretty pleased with how things have been going so far, and I'm looking forward to the next matchup.
All right, and Spleebie, you got to take home the W tonight. Sounds like you've got a few more games yet to play as well.
Yeah, halfway done with groups, I guess. It's been interesting so far. I'm glad this was comfy Ambrosia and not Key Sanity. But I'm sure I'll be facing those eventually. But thanks for putting on the restream, doing commentary, tracking, and everything. And hope to see you in the next one.
Yep, always fun. We do need the runners to put on the show, and you two put on a really good one tonight. So much so that until Malmo had just said, oh yeah, remember to follow these two, it had been too close for us to really get to that for the race. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and reiterate that. By all means, go ahead and give these two a follow if you liked the show that they put on tonight. Thank you so much to everybody else who helped put this thing on. Philly, thanks for tracking. Malmo, it was a pleasure. We've done the scheduling bits. If you need more of the Link to the Past Randomizer main tournament in your life, or even the Challenge Cup, it is all floating around out there. There is so much rando being played right now. You can find it at most hours of the day. Probably more than should really be watched by any one human being. But it's up to you. Go ahead and give it a go. Just as much of it as you want. Malmo, if you want to go ahead and carry us on out of here, I think we've said our piece otherwise.
Good night, everybody.